You're listening to Investigation Insiders by Integras Intelligence.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Investigation Insiders. This is Forhad. Hope you are all well and safe. So, by popular demand, we once again have Joe Mauro and Mike Ginch on the show today. How are you guys?
We are doing great.
Doing great. Thanks for having me back. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, Joe, from kind of last week, people associate you with the show, so I could not have you back on. And Mike, we want people to do the same with you. So it's the middle of the summer. New York City is having a very, very hot and humid summer. We are feeling really good, thank God, and wanted to do something a little bit perhaps more fun today. So let's get it going. So I think it's probably appropriate that you guys just quickly reintroduce yourselves so that folks that may not know you get a quick intro. So Joe, why don't we start with you? Why don't you remind people of your background?
Sure thing. So I was with the FBI for 34 years, most of that time as an analyst working organized crime. And I came over to Integras 5.5 years ago to try something new. And I joined Integras.
Awesome. And what do you do here?
I am the Director of Investigations.
Awesome. And so what do you wish you knew before joining the private sector?
I think I was kind of surprised to see the kindness and friendship among the business world. I think I had an image of more like cutthroat people, where it's just business, business, business. But as I've come on and grown in the role and got to meet people and join a whole bunch of events throughout the years, I'm getting to see how people are really just looking out for each other and offer assistance, even though it's not helpful for them in their pocket. So that was surprising to me, and I was quite pleased with that. So I might have made a move earlier if I had known that people are actually nice to each other.
I will say, you to that point, you get back what you put out, and so I think your general nature probably makes your experience with that a lot better just because of how much you give. But so Joe, can you talk about some of your mentors? And I know this is a really hard question, so to the extent that you can.
Mentors, I'm going to start with the most obvious one, you, because you've taught me a lot in the last 5 years. How to be a leader, how to be a leader with kindness and setting the goal for the future. You're very methodical on how you do things, but you're so caring about how you present from start to finish, where things should go and how they work. And there's always a method to your madness. Yes, you do have a madness. But you've showed me a lot. I mean, I watch you and how you talk to people and how you treat people, and I've seen it in work life and personal life, how it all comes back to you. So I think you're the top of you're the head honcho in this category.
Oh, thank you. Anyone else you want to mention? Otherwise, people are going to think that I wrote.
It's all about you? No. I mean, there were quite a few people in the FBI. Obviously, I started as a almost 19-year-old, and we're talking 30 plus years of people in leadership. I can't even specify anybody in person, but there were some really good people who just wanted you to do the best and worked with you closely to bring the best out of you. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So since the show is called Investigation Insiders, tell us something about you that most people don't know.
I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but my love of theater and musicals. It's just something I've always enjoyed. And obviously through high school I was in shows, but maybe not obviously, but I was in high school throughout in shows. And then when I had my kids and I moved out to Staten Island, I wanted to be a part of a group. So we joined a local community theater group in the church and became part of the ensemble. I grew to be a co-producer, and then I even performed in a few of the shows, and I had a lead in one of them. We played Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So that was my main claim to fame for that period of time.
Well, that's interesting. I know you go to shows from time to time, but you are certainly not theatrical in how you carry yourself every day. So that's interesting. Mike, you have any questions or comments on anything Joe told us?
No, I mean, I did know a little bit about that. She did mention that she would go to a show here and there, but I didn't really realize it was a true passion and love of hers.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Joe. So let's move on to you, Mike. Remind everyone a little bit about your background.
So I started my career with the U.S. Marshal Service, the Regional Fugitive Task Force of New York and New Jersey. Did that for a couple of years, and then I actually went technically into the private sector, where I became a research analyst at a private firm. Did that for another couple of years, and that was when the NYPD called and jumped ship, went to the NYPD. I was there for about 7.5 years. After about 2, 3 years in the police department, I became the field training officer in the 106 precinct, and I did that up until when I left. And in 2023, I joined the Integras team, and I've been here now a little over 2.5 years, and I oversee all the investigations here.
There's a you said a lot there, and in like I think another decade or two, it'll be a lot more interesting where you end up and kind of the way that you got there. So thanks for sharing that. And so you and I obviously worked together previously, right? In the private sector, but your role was very, very different at that time, right? And so now that you're back in after a stint with the government, what are some things you wish you would have known before you joined again?
When I first started working for you, this was now 10 years ago, being a research analyst, it was more, behind the scenes, working behind the desk, doing all the background work, not very forward facing, speaking to the clients. Now coming back into the mix on a different side as, handling the investigations, managing, speaking to the clients. I think the biggest takeaway that I didn't pick up on was public speaking. I always preferred to hide in the corner of the room. Any volunteers, that wasn't me. Looking back, I wish I would have been that person that raised their hand, volunteered for things, got out there, spoke to a group of people, spoke to crowds, because I think the biggest thing in the private sector is always goes back to the relationships, being able to speak to people, and ultimately you want to control the room.
Well, that's an interesting topic. And Joe, I'm going to pull you back into this discussion actually. Like you guys know, I talk about like communication a lot, right? And so both writing, um, verbal, and then just body language and demeanor and all that sort of stuff, right? So you guys are actually both decent writers, but to your colleagues that, are perhaps still in the government or early on in their career or considering leaving, I mean, obviously the ship has sailed for some, but can you talk about the importance of being able to communicate in all three areas, like and how much of a critical role that plays in the private sector?
I mean, as you said, communication is much more critical than I anticipated leaving government because I had my role as an analyst. I had to obviously communicate in writing, verbally, talk to upper level management, get the point across on the nature of the presentation, body language being a part of that as well. You have to be able to speak as an authority on these topics. It translates the same way in private sector, getting the client what they ask for, making sure they also get what they need, even if they didn't ask for it, being able to articulate that in a respectful way, comprehensive way, whether it be written, verbal, or in person, handshake, talk on the phone is key to this business, to maintain those relationships and to maintain future connections.
What about you, Mike? Any follow up on that?
The only thing I will add is in the private sector, communication is what keeps everything running smoothly. Either I'm flagging something to Joe, setting up an engagement, giving a client an update. It's crucial to clearly communicate because, look, you don't want to have anything slip through the cracks. If things slip through the cracks, if you do not communicate clearly, then you're going to have a much bigger issue to deal with down the road.
Yep. No, for sure. So why don't you talk about some of your mentors?
I mean, so first and foremost, my parents have always been, my mentors, my biggest supporters. They obviously set me up for success, from an early age, but obviously they can only do so much. They can only guide you, and then that's where you have to take everything that you learned and put it into the real world. And to me, that put me at the age of 21 when I met you, Forhad. If I'm sure not many people know this, but I went into the job that I was working for you at just for career advice. It was just a simple, hey, I just got out of college, trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. And then a few months later, turned into, hey, here's an opportunity as a research analyst. And ever since then, I always look back that, that I was given the opportunity, extremely thankful. And then, of course, when I left the NYPD, the one thing that always stuck with me was I could have obviously stayed and worked for you there, but I knew deep down that you wanted me to fulfill my dreams, go into the NYPD, which I did, and I'm so thankful for. But going back to that relationship aspect, I'm not too sure if many people know this, but I ended up patrolling where Forhad resided. We always stayed in contact. We would have coffee maybe 1, 2, 3 times a month. And, over the years, we just stayed connected. The goal would have been to work for Integras, when I was at my 25th, 30th anniversary in the NYPD when I would retire. And then, we just always stayed in touch. And, the opportunity presented itself. And just over the years, just seeing how how you've grown with the business and just in general, and seeing that and teaching me so many different things in life. I'm like I always tell people, I'm extremely grateful. Because obviously when you're 21, you're young. You don't know what's really out there. So to have someone, especially my parents, and have someone like you in the real world to really put me and show me things was unbelievable.
Well, I appreciate that, Mike. We should actually, like, again, this all, I think, goes back to the discussion related to people, right? So let me go back to Joe for a second. The connection between you and I is our mutual friend from the FBI, right? Eileen
Right.
O'Rourke, that made an introduction to us, and we met for a cup of coffee, right?
Yep.
And chatted, and I think it was just it was just I think a mutually enjoyable discussion, right?
Yep.
And talk about how you ended up actually working here.
Well, let me start with I was like so impressed that you actually came down to downtown to see me because of that relationship you have with Eileen, and I'm like, wow, this president of a company is meeting me, and I'm just looking for to see where I can go once I retire. I was like, that set the bar already because I'm like, all right, he's not a it's not a pretense to you should come to me kind of thing. So I was really impressed with that. But this that coffee was in October of 2019, and there was no position available when I spoke to you, but you had me in mind for other things. And I kept, looking and trying to put other feelers out. But January came. I decided to retire, even though I didn't have a secure position. I just went with it. And the last day of my retirement, the last day of working there, you called me to say, "Are you interested in a position here?" And it was a smaller position. It was part time. It was pretty much exactly what I was looking for at the time. And I jumped on it. And then since then, we got to see how we worked together. We grew together, COVID hit, we wound up working together a lot to try to keep things flowing and going with the company and thinking about crazy ideas like a podcast here. Uh, and we, then build a friendship from there on as forward. So it was a good move and a good decision on my part, I would say.
I mean, for us, I mean, we got lucky, but again, without that sort of like relationship and connectivity, because again, just going into it, I knew if Eileen's recommending you, and like that just gave you a leg up on everyone else. But yeah, it was coincidental, by the way, right? Like I did not actually know that that was your last day when I called you, and it was pretty late in the day. I remember it's like 7 o'clock. I actually there was a specific reason why there was the opening, and I was talking to Tony beforehand before I called you, and I think I said, I really like this lady. I'm just gonna, and he said, yeah, go for it. And so it's just weird how things work out, but it's like the thing I mentioned earlier about like what you put out, like you get back, and you put out a really good vibe. So I thank you for that. And then with Mike, just an interesting thing about like again, Tony and I. So again, we all worked at the same company, right? And like even though I knew that it was coming, that Mike would be leaving at some point to the police department. Truth, so like behind the scenes, Mike, we were devastated, man, when you actually delivered the news to us, right? Like shit, this we know it's coming, but maybe we thought we'd impress you enough to stay. Obviously, not enough, right? And so that was a real turning point for us in a lot of ways because we had to again pivot in a lot of ways to figure that all out. And so many years later, like again, I worked for Guardsmark many years ago, and they put us through all kind of training. And I think there was this one thing that they taught us about, like the Rosenthal effect, which is almost like believing things into existence, right?
Mhm.
And as we, by the way, those aforementioned coffees, Mike, why don't you tell everybody what time of day that was happening?
So it was at the pretty much the same time, a couple times a month. It was always between and 9 and 10 p.m. So that, tells a lot about you, Farhad, taking the time, like we were saying about the relationships. Farhad could have easily been like, you know what, like I'm exhausted. I just worked 12 hours. I want to go to bed. Always made time for me. We always had great conversation. But, that's what it always goes back to is, that relationship. And, and look what happened.
Yeah, well, so believing things into existence, right? Like really truthfully, and Tony and I also talked about it. We thought it was going to happen 20 years later, obviously, right? It happened a lot sooner than that. But if you remember one time, Kevin Donovan and I, we were walking down Sixth Avenue, and all of a sudden I heard my name, and it was you and Aaron, right? Like walking down the street, and you called my name, and I remember after our conversation. Well, I told Aaron, I said Mike's going to be working with us again once he retires, so he has an open job once he leaves and comes back, right? And then I when we left there, I told Kevin, I said. Mike's going to be a leader in this company one day, and he says, "All right, we'll see." I mean, long way to go, and that's what I thought too, by the way, right? So all these really interesting sort of like connection points between us, right?
Yeah, I remember you speaking about him a while before the option even came up for him to come over. And I
I
was
don't
like,
know
all
if
right,
you
it's
know
got to be good if you speak so highly of him, and he's definitely proven himself.
and you guys know better than anyone. Like I am not. I always say to everyone, every day is not a good day, right? And I think people, uh, insider information. I think people oftentimes will meet me in like public settings and talk. Obviously in more like. Um, I guess less business, more just social settings, and think things are always as calm as I put them out there to be. And you guys know better than everyone that it's not always that way. And so, um, again, we're all lucky, I think, to be able to work together. So, Mike, tell us something about yourself that most people wouldn't know.
Well, I think some people got a little hint of what I'm about to say from a couple LinkedIn posts, but I'm an avid runner. Um, to give a little context of why I got into running. So when I was younger, I was diagnosed with asthma, and it was pretty difficult growing up. Having to be nebulized. It was just a constant. I wouldn't say struggle, just annoying at times, and obviously the fear of having an asthma attack. And then as the years went on, I was maybe about 10 to 12, and I was just trying to be like, am I going to live with this forever? And I remember my doctor saying, try running. What you're basically going to do is build up your lungs. And I remember okay, I was maybe 12 at this point. I ran maybe 40, 50 feet, thought I was going to have an asthma attack. I'm like, I don't think this is going to work. But, I kept with it. So every day I would do a little bit more. I'd bring my inhaler, I'd keep going. And then fast forward to 2018, I ended up running 2 marathons in the same year. And, to me, running has always, I wouldn't say it saved me, but I no longer have asthma, which is great. And now, I can stay in shape. And then one other thing that I don't think anyone really knows is I actually enjoy playing the guitar.
Ah,
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Joe, you know that?
I think I saw it in the background on one of our video calls. Yeah, I'd love to see. So maybe at the next social, you can bring the guitar
Yeah.
and perform for us.
Hey, that's going back to public speaking. Now you want me to do public performance.
We could advertise live music, Mike, if you do
I think I'll hire someone.
that. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Joe, you have anything you want to follow up or ask
No,
Mike?
no, I'm impressed with that, and it speaks to your character, Mike, about even as a kid where you probably didn't want to do something that you should do, but you kept on doing it and pursuing it. So it
But
speaks to who you are now as an adult.
Appreciate that.
no, I totally agree. So normally it's I always get to ask all the questions. Since we are trying something different, I'll participate in the fun and let you guys ask me some questions, but take it easy, okay?
No promises.
So why don't we start with to tell us something about yourself that people may not know?
So, well, I mean, I would say that I am a both sneaker and shoe nut. I've always liked sneakers since I was as young as I could remember. I have a little bit, of a collection, and I really enjoy it. My mother used to get on me about it, and now my wife does. So I don't think everyone would know that about me.
It's probably like there's no more room in the closet, so stop it.
Well, there's a current negotiation going on in my house, which she says that I have to get rid of some pairs in order to make room for something else. And I convinced my older son to get rid of one of his pairs so that there appears to be more room on the. This is a true story, and it's active, by the way. So. But yeah, so that's something. There's other things, but I think that's probably something that people don't know.
Well, seeing you dressed up, always styling, some we could probably figure that out. That you maybe not the sneaker part. I don't think I've ever seen you in sneakers, but definitely the nice shoes. I've seen those plenty of times.
Right. The yeah,
Yeah, I've definitely seen you in your pair of sneakers, but wouldn't picture you having the whole collection.
yeah.
All right, so we spoke about our mentors. Let's hear about who is one of your favorite mentors or somebody you want to talk about.
Well, first of all, I'm not going to mention anyone in my family like Mike did, just so people don't think you hate your family or your friends, right? So I'm going to leave that part of it out, right? So let me split it up into three. I ask people this question on the show, so I've always thought about how I would answer it, right? So again, leaving my family out of it, I think everyone who knows me knows that my single biggest influence um, and mentor was Jim Tomlinson from the FBI. I could go on and on and on, and I hope to do a full episode about that one day. But without question, he has been the single biggest driving force in my life and my career. My dad passed away at a young age, so he's really taken on that role, and I am forever grateful for everything that he's done for me. And he represents some others, which obviously I can't get into everyone, right?
Right.
Second person I would mention is Tony. Again, he and I were we worked together at Guardsmark, but while we were friends, we were not super close before we got into business together. Obviously, we've gotten very close over the years, and you know, to be together as long as we have, and to probably spend more time together than we have with our spouses or family over this amount of time, there really has to be a respect and love that exists. And I'm happy to say that this is not lip service. I really I admire Tony. I am grateful for, just everything we've had together, and I look forward to, next however many years we do this together. So, uh, definitely a mentor for me, because one of the things is the balance in our relationship, because he's the calm one, he's the thought out one, he's really the brains of the operation. I mean, and I'm not saying that is the actual truth. And whereas it's almost like he thinks and I feel, and my feelings aren't always right, so it's good that he thinks, right? And it's just been a great run for us. And then the last sort of category of people are people that I've had a chance to work with over the years, including obviously the two of you guys, who have really helped me grow as a person, as a manager, as a coworker, right? So I think that's my long-winded answer, as short as I can make it.
Mhm. Well done. Well done.
I like that.
So, all right. So, any other questions before we move on?
I think we're good.
Okay. So we just, Joe, you mentioned it earlier. So we just had our summer social event, right? So thank you to everyone who attended. Needless to say, we're very grateful for the support, right? The event actually serves as the inspiration for the show that we're doing today, right? Obviously, technology, artificial intelligence, robots, and other things are playing a big part in our lives, both at home, at work, and really everything in between, right? It's all pretty amazing, as we all know. But our event reminded me, anyway, that while these things are all great, people still matter, especially for the work that we do. So let's talk about that for a little bit, right? So first, let's just talk about the event. Joe, what'd you think of the event? Can you talk a little bit about your interaction and what you'll remember?
Sure. I mean, I was looking forward to this for a while. It was nice to see, obviously we were part of the invitation list and the people coming together, and I enjoy it tremendously. I feel like this last year I didn't get to speak to as many people as I thought I did when I saw the, the list or the photos. This year I felt like I did so much better, but the same reaction. There were so many people there that I'm like, oh my God, I didn't get to say hello to this one. I didn't get to say hello to that one. but it was people that we worked with or known from different connections. A lot of FBI people, which was nice. So it was a good feeling because everybody who couldn't stay or if they had another prior commitment, they still wanted to come by just to say hello and pay their regards. So that made me feel good because it shows that they care about us and our company and our friendship. So I thought it was good. I had a blast. If you see some of the photos, I'm like laughing in almost all of them, talking to people. I thought it was,
We talked about that, right? We're gonna put some of those out on social media and ask
yeah,
to caption. So, what about you, Mike?
Yeah, so this event is just awesome. I mean, obviously behind the scenes, we put months of preparation to this, the planning, for just a 3 to 5 hour night. So it's just incredible when it all comes together. Seeing everyone that comes out, like to Joe's point, it means a lot to all of us. For everyone that come out, especially, we had some of our friends come from, different states, driving in, we had people fly in. So it's just an incredible feeling to know that you're obviously doing something right. And for me, being a part of the company for only a couple of years, every year this event is going to get better and better, and it's just an incredible thing to see.
what did you think, Farhad? Was it what you had hoped it to be?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's like we discussed. It takes time and preparation, and like there's no secret about like putting an event like this together. It's like you have to send save the dates, then you have to send an invite, then you
Yep.
have to get everyone to respond, then you got to remind them and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, when people show up for you, it just really feels good. So, thank you all. So now again, you think about that. There were no robots at our party that I know about, right? There was no artificial intelligence at our party that I know about. But it was just people in a room eating and drinking and talking, right? But AI is one of those things that are front on people's mind, right? So let's talk a little bit about some areas that maybe you guys are using it, that has really helped you do your work more efficiently or better, before we start talking about all the other things.
I would say for me, I use it. I'm trying to when I'm trying to word something appropriately or find a more original way of word it. I'll use the chatting features that will help enhance what my wording. I'm also enjoying our video blogs that we started creating recently, and using AI to pulls into it, pulls the data out the blogs that we base them on, and it presents it in a way that makes it much more personal and kind of entertaining while it's informational. I'll let Mike speak about the other part if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah, so AI, it's very neat. I think a lot of people were afraid in the beginning to utilize it. Wasn't too sure if it was, going to be helpful to them, or if they really, I don't really have a use for it. But it's neat. It's sort of like an extra employee because I'm sure everyone does this. I do it. I'll call Joe on something. I'll call Forhad on something and say, hey, just want to like ping something off your mind. So it's very neat to be able to just type in what you're thinking to, like Joe was saying, and it'll just spit out exactly. It's like, oh wow, like I wasn't thinking of that. Or to actually circle back to the party, I remember like I threw in, I'm like, how do I make a company event stand out? And like things came back super quick. Make sure you have good food. I think that's where I got the idea. Let's add a backdrop for photos. So
Yep.
it's just so neat to see it all come together because sometimes you're just not thinking, and to use technology to throw ideas at you is incredible.
Yep. No, for sure. It's like, what are you most excited about the future of technology as it relates to, I mean, personal or professional lives?
I've seen the growth even just in our company, like using a case management software that we had. We started just tracking things by email, and then as we've decided to well, let's get a better handle on it and use the technology that's available to enhance what we have, and I think that's worked out tremendously. And now even within programs like that, we look into it. What can we do to make it better? Ease the burden for clients, for vendors, for our team itself. So I love technology. Even an old Gen X person like me, everything that comes out, I want to be one of the first to try things out. So I'm excited with what else is going to come into play for our company as we do research and see what better options there are out there to help the company as a whole progress.
I agree with that, Mike. What are you excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I agree as well. I mean, I think I've always loved technology. I always loved enjoy having like the newest iPhone, getting like the new laptop, the newest MacBook, seeing the different features. Now it just comes as an update, so you don't have to buy the new product. But to Joe's point, just like with our case management platform or, when we're doing research, there's so many different tools. So like I look at AI as like an enhancement. I still think we're always going to need humans. I don't think we can solely rely on AI because there's a lot of times where I put something in and I'm like, nah, that's not really what I was thinking, or you have to tweak it. So I just think it's going to be. I can't imagine in the next 5, 10 years what other technology is going to come out that's going to help us as a company and ultimately help our clients.
Sure. No, I agree. I think the efficiency factor is a really important thing in our business because we joke about this with people that we meet with. Like very few people, maybe no one ever comes to us and says, we need help on an investigation or whatever, and take as much time, spend as much money, and get us something back on a paper napkin, right? I mean, so I think the ability to use the tools that are available to us to make ourselves faster, more efficient, without impacting the quality. In fact, making the quality even better because we are focused on the actual research, investigation, and analysis as opposed to administrative tasks. I think is a great thing. That's something I'm excited about as well. So you guys obviously oversee investigations that are going on all over the world, right? So while I'm sure technology plays an important role, like for example, communicating with them and securely and all that sort of stuff, can you talk about how I guess important your relationships are with the people and the role that they play in helping you sort of get the information needed for the work that you're doing?
Technology is great, but it is the people you're speaking to. And I'm enjoying seeing the relationships that we've had in the company. And as we continue to grow, we talk to other clients across the world, other partners that help create the end product for our clients. It's not just business as usual. A lot of it does turn into a relationship, a conversation. You're building trust with people across the whole world, and that I like seeing it from this perspective. We're in New York, we have what we have, but because of the nature of the game these days, we can now use partners from all over the place. And talking to people in Latin America, in Europe, in South Africa, it's just amazing to me that we have partners and we continue to grow with those people. And one adventure turns into another because we already trust each other.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's interesting because like let's just say, I mean, again, this could change over time, right? But it for now anyway. Let's just say there's something like you mentioned the different places, right? That we are looking into in like Brazil, right?
Mhm.
And we do desktop research and we come up with that information. Clearly, there's information that's available and to be had, right? But to have that relationship with someone actually on the ground over there that understands the landscape, understands the language, understands the nuances associated with it, and having them either affirm or add to, or I guess refute sort of our findings and giving that to us, I think that really gives us a lot more confidence in terms of what we present to our client. Would you agree to that?
I definitely would agree to that.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
As opposed to just taking it straight from like the internet and presenting it as alone, right?
For sure. And then Mike, you speak with the our partners more than I do. So if there's anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, so it's actually it's very interesting. So when I first joined the Integras team, I was only under the impression that we did work in the United States. And I still remember to this day, I remember like an email came in and it was somewhere overseas. It could have been Mexico. I don't know where it was exactly. And I'm saying to myself, I'm like trying, like, where is this on a map? Like, I don't even know like where this country is. And then within, I'd say 30 minutes, the case was rolling and I'm like, who is this individual that Josephine was reaching out to? All right, we getting the case started. It's just, it was so incredibly fascinating seeing that, come to life so quick that, she can make a phone call and we have a partner pick up immediately. Yep, we're going to get to work on this. So it's really cool to, have these partners all over the world, and whatever support that we need, they're there to help.
Yeah, Mike, I'm wondering if you have like a like an example that you could talk about, like where again, I think it's the convergence, right? Like I think that's the point. Is that yes, technology is amazing, it's unbelievable, but it doesn't stand alone. People are amazing, but you can't stand alone on just doing it without technology. It's the convergence of the two. Maybe there's a case study or something like that that you could talk about that really helps to demonstrate how the two things came together and the importance of the people involved in the case were.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe not like a case study in jar, but maybe, what I realized in the private sector, it's all about helping out each other. A lot of times people will call you, it may not be related to a case or, it may not be your client, but it's like, hey, I need a favor. I need help here in this country. Any chance you have a contact there? And I think it's really cool to be able to say, yep, what do you need? If it's nothing crazy, not a problem. I think we can get it done. So, like I remember someone calling in regards to, hey, I need support in, I think it was Mexico. I need someone boots on the ground there. Just to, I think it was just like take a photo somewhere, something quick, and immediately made a quick phone call to our partner,
Yep.
and I remember it was maybe a couple hours later, had the photo in hand, and then sent it right back, and they were shocked, the turnaround. But I think, like we always keep saying, we build a relationship with our partners where if they see our call, they want to answer, they want to help us.
Actually, as you're talking about that, and obviously we don't want to mention any specifics, but you were just dealing with something like last night where um, a client of ours reached out about a post that was made online on one of the social media platforms that related to one of the client's employees, and they were trying to figure out a way to get it removed, right?
Yes.
There was no technological way of doing that, right? Can you talk a little bit about what that process is going to look like and the importance of the relationships and the fact that people have to be involved in order to make what the client is looking for happen?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, it would be awesome if it was as easy as just typing in AI, like, hey, remove this website, remove this post. It says something about me. But unfortunately, that's not how it works in this day and age. But it's really neat when someone has a problem and the gears start spinning in my head, like who to call for this. Make a phone call, run it by them, and then hopefully it's still in the process where we reach out to a contact that can support on this.
I think the moral of the story here is, again, being with all of our friends and everyone that came out last week, we're just reminded again of how like the importance of like human sort of interaction and relationships are, and we're grateful to have those people in our lives and look forward to continuing to have everyone in our lives. And we thank you for everything, and look forward to staying connected. Joe, Mike, you guys want to add anything to that?
No, no, I appreciate it. This seemed like a fun idea. I'm glad we got to thank the people that make us who we are.
I agree. This was awesome.
Well, to everyone that's listening, till next time, thank you so much for your support. Talk to you soon.
Don't forget to follow us. We are on LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.